abolish the monarchy. So he wrote a recent interview you may have heard about, revealed that the British monarchy is a toxic den of backbiting and racism. And who would doubt it? There's nothing easier to believe than that an institution created to be the physical embodiment of classism. Classism is awash in inhumanity. Where the public response to this revelation has gone astray is in the widespread conviction that we should make the monarchy better. Not at all. You cannot turn a bottle of poison into a refreshing drink, no matter how much sugar you pour into it. A just and proper response to what we've learned would be for the entire United Kingdom to come together, join hands in a great circle around the institutional monarchy and burn it to the ground while singing Sweet Caroline to maintain a positive spirit. And then the members of the royal family can sweep up the ashes and deposit them neatly in a bin, a ceremonial beginning to a new life of working or living. You see, the existence of a monarchy is an admission that a government cannot or not care to solve people's problems. Instead of just, it offers spectacle. It has always been easier to elevate one family to a fairy tale life of luxury than to do the dreary work of elevating every single family to a decent standard of living. The common people fund the lifestyle of a tiny, exalted, thoroughly unworthy elite, rather than the other way around. Any nation that still has a monarchy in 2021 is proving itself to have a mortifying lack of revolutionary gumption.
You watch your
America is guilty of, and this is a New York Times article, remember. America is guilty of many crimes against humanity.
Invasion, eh?
But this is one thing we got
Dutch
right.
got last names.
Our presidents may be national embarrassments.
So if you have a Dutch
but at least Americans are not required to scrape and bow before some utterly random rich
it comes from military occupation of the Netherlands by the French.
Being the child of the child of the child of someone
Dutch last names
who was centuries ago the nation's biggest gangster. Yes, we have our own hypnotic capitalist addiction to celebrity. But monarchy is something altogether more twisted.
About 20 problems
as if the Bush family and the Kardashians and the Falwells were all rolled into one bejeweled quasi-religious fame cult, topped off with a bracing dose of imperialism.
I don't know if it was a subtle shout out to us.
It's a well-written cult.
People that use Universal Time.
The premise to me is a bit questionable.
But if you give a whole
the idea
breakdown
that
of the time zone,
the government
March
that we have,
nobody's talking about the nuclear thing.
Unless the head of state is not a member of this rich, fancy elite. And that somehow the American government serves its people better because it's a republic as opposed to my. I don't, obviously, as you can tell, I don't buy into the central premise. And it is about feelings, how people feel about some rich people having an opportunity to lord it, as it were, lord it over the rest of the country. And of course, that creates a deep amount of resentment. On the other hand, there's always another hand. A number of people who are very proud of tradition and believe that the royal family, for the most part, upholds important traditions and important values. Here's what I would value. An honest discussion at this national kitchen table, as always. To maintain or abolish. And I'm not asking anyone to abolish in any kind of violent way. That's not what we do here. That's ridiculous. But to continue with the monarchy, our relationship to the monarchy, or to end it. And I must admit, usually I'll take a position. In fact, I always take a position. But the only honest position I can take right now is it does not matter to me. And so I'll ask you to look at three options, just in the interest of honesty. Yes to the monarchy, no to the monarchy, or option C. It doesn't really matter. Because in your heart of hearts, you may believe what I believe, but it wouldn't affect anything. I don't see the American government serving its people better than the Canadian government because
you watch your mom,
the head of state in the United States is a president, and our head of state technically is the Queen or the Governor General. I don't. If I honestly believe that service, the fire department, the police department, and the hospitals, and schools, the roads. I mean, if everything worked better in this country, I believe that everything would work better if we had a president as opposed to a Governor General. I'd be first in line. Say, I got my hand up. Let's get rid of this constitutional monarchy business. Just call it a day. Thank you very much, and move on to becoming a republic. If I believe that substantively, it would give us better service,
organized crime group that had a prime minister.
So yes to the monarchy, or no, or it does not make a darn bit of difference to you. Yes, no, or it doesn't matter. Those are the three choices here. 1-877-399-9898. You can text or call. You're texting, please give us your first name and location. 1-877-399-9898. That's Canadian common sense in the greatest country in the world, regardless of whether it's a republic or a monarchy. This is Canada. And this is Charles' answer tonight.
Reopen your business to customers safely. Join the growing number of businesses turning to NanoNation, a disinfectant process that kills viruses on contact, including the COVID-19 virus. NanoNation is a Health Canada-approved, hospital-grade, persistent protection electrostatic process that is applied to all surfaces, including frequently touched and hard-to-reach areas, and is 99.9% effective. Our application of NanoNation's BioProtect solution coating is proven to last for up to 90 days. To have your location serviced, visit nanonationcanada.com.
Everyday Canadians are buying homes and getting the wrong mortgage rates. Important announcement. If you have a home mortgage closing in the next 90 days, 1.15% 5-year variable rate mortgages are available at butlermortgage.ca. No matter what you were told or what you signed, you can still switch to 1.15% 5-year. No gimmicks, no fees, standard mortgages at 1.15% 5-year variable. To learn if you qualify, go to butlermortgage.ca.
Of common but differentiated responsibilities. Halting biodiversity loss is a common goal of humanity. Every country should be engaged in this endeavor to the best of its capability. Furthermore, with respect to the oceans, we must all remain steadfast in deliberations with a view to concluding the negotiations for an international, legally binding instrument under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. We look forward to engaging constructively in the summit's dialogue and to taking firm actions to put nature on a path to recovery. Mr. President, I wish now to provide some additional perspectives in my national capacity. My country, Guyana, is endowed with rich biodiversity. This endowment provides environmental benefits to both the local and global.
Amazing sleep products, it's never been easier to reset your rest because now their winter sale is here and you can save up to 15% on supremely comfortable mattresses and super soft sheets to make your year. Only Casper mattresses are made with up to 86 supportive gel pods to align your spine and eliminate aches and pains. Shop the winter sale today and enjoy up to 15% off your bedroom essentials. Casper, the official sleep partner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Exclusions may apply. See casper.ca/promo for details and end date.
You can't expect me to stand here and say I'm confident that there's nothing to be afraid of when everyone should be afraid.
Tuesday.
I missed my favorite scrub nurse in the OR today, Ginger. He passed away. It's the hospital on staff wheel.
Oh, fuck off.
He's quite public about what he does, and there's lots of books also written about how he does it. He has several different strategies, but some of the key ones are he's what you call a value investor. He looks for companies that he thinks basically the rest of the stock market has ignored and are worth more than the share price might suggest. He's also very interested in companies that produce a lot of cash. He's very interested in companies that have some form of a monopoly in a way. He loves brands. He loves big brands. One of the things he does is invest in companies. Like if you go to like a corner shop or a shop in a station or an airport or whatever, all around the world, there are some products that those shops really have to have, say like Duracell batteries, Coca-Cola, in the days of film, Kodak film, not anymore, obviously. And he likes to buy companies with very big brands like that, and he likes to hold them basically forever. He thinks if you've come up with, if you've found a good company, don't keep buying and selling shares, just buy a lot of them and perhaps even take over the company itself in the end.
Indeed. Gosh, some of the secrets there, as you say, he's been relatively forthcoming about that, Andrew Wood. I like the idea that he took his time to become a hecto-billionaire at the age of 90. I've got 50 years or so to make it. I don't think I probably will, though. It's his Newsday on the BBC World Service.
That's got to be Warren Buffett. No?
Time now to get the latest sports news, sports headlines at least. Here's James Gray.
Thanks very much indeed, Bola. Liverpool are through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. It was an easy 2-0 win for them out.
Should be about 4 minutes.
Hi, Charles.
Wow.
My opinion is that the constitutional monarchy should remain. I believe currently our connection to the Queen and the royal family is governed by convention. We actually genuinely have no control over how our government runs. And I think we owe respect to our Commonwealth roots to Britain, and I don't think it has any negative effect on the way our government runs. And I think it should remain the same.
So just tell me in your heart then, Adam, where does the support come from? Because clearly
South China, that would be two stupid things at the
same time.
Where does it come from?
I have family that lives in the United Kingdom, and I lived there temporarily, and so that might be where I might be biased.
So is it fair to say then that people who have a heritage connection, a family connection, are more likely to have the cockles of their heart warmed by the idea of us being part of a monarchy? Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
All right. So you've got some English heritage. Thank you very much for that. From Edmonton, moving down the road to Mel, somewhere just outside of Red Deer, Alberta. Mel, you're on Charles Adler tonight.
Good evening, Charles. Very interesting show.
Thank you.
Oh, bang. Anyway, I believe we should actually go away from the constitutional monarchy and become a modified republican system set up similar to the United States, where a president is a leader of a party doesn't become, the prime minister. It's a separate election. That way we wouldn't have a prime minister acting like a dictator, and if you don't agree with him, you're down the road.
Oh dear.
Get rid of you think we could have if we had a republican system, what you call a modified republic, not a constitutional monarchy, you think that somehow that would put the brakes on the prime minister's power? Is that your point?
It would if he's elected separately. So would you have to call him?
Help me with this. Why would it make a difference? Why would it stymie the prime minister? I don't understand.
Okay, a president is elected separately. He can be a member of the party, but he's re-elected separately.
Okay.
He has no control bodily to fire or hire anybody in the Senate or the Congress. He can fire or hire his own staff members, like the past president.
Who's running the country, the president or the prime minister?
The prime minister of Canada doesn't have an official residence right now.
Under your system,
he sleeps at the governor general's house.
It would be the Congress and a voted Senate. Everybody in the Senate voted in too.
So the president wouldn't have much power, neither would the prime minister.
We need a prime minister and a president.
Don't you think there'd be a lot of quarreling, a lot of fighting if the public doesn't have a sense of who's in charge?
Get like 3 seats because of
because right now what we have right now, every once in a while we'll get a prime minister who figures he's right on everything, and won't listen to his advisors,
every 4 years.
and that is always a problem. But if you separate the power structure between a president or a prime minister acting like a president, separately elected, and a separate legislative body and an elected Senate, it divides the power. And
damn it!
You know, it would be impossible to get a secret vote for everything, so people could actually represent their constituents instead of representing.
Just one question. I promise to let you go. At the end of this trail, this bumpy trail, who is accountable for the decisions of government?
The taxpayers.
Someone has to be accountable for a system to work. Who's accountable here?
Person would be responsible every election.
All right. Mel, thank you very much for thinking about this. Appreciate it very, very much. Let me, can I, you know what? I won't. I'm gonna, folks, pardon me. I'm just going to ask you to be patient. Stay on hold. We got lots of people want to talk about this. That's great. Here's my number, 1-877-399-9898. For people who think about this deeply, it may not be easy. For the rest of us, it's a simple yes or no, or it doesn't matter. After the Oprah interview, naturally people are talking about the monarchy. Most people are talking about it in rather disparaging ways because of how the monarchy certainly came across in that conversation between Oprah Winfrey, Harry, and Meghan Markle.
I think we should
my
make
question
the kid
tonight
the fucking
do you want to keep the monarchy?
King of Canada.
Do you want to
There we go.
dump the monarchy? Or, in this case, are you like me, and I'm not usually like this on any issue, but I am on this one. I'm agnostic. I don't think it makes a difference to how ultimately we're governed. It doesn't make a difference to me. So yes to the monarchy, or no, or it doesn't make a darn bit of difference. My number is 1-877-399-9898, toll free. You can text or call 1-877-399-9898. And you can also email us, by the way, anytime. Charles@charlesadlertonight.ca. That's an interesting call from Mel, who clearly has been doing more thinking about it than a lot of other folks. A little complicated, but
Tonight on W Network.
Newly single, professional photographer, used to be fun, still fun.
Hunky Brewster is putting her own spin on being a grown-up.
Wow.
Okay, awesome. Or at least grown-up-ish.
Shoot, I'd rather side with the people. Later, I told him I was going to visit my family. That's when I ran away. The military is becoming more and more brutal.
As we speak, Nang pulls out his phone to show me photos of the family he left behind. A wife and 2 daughters, one 5 years old, the other just 6 months.
I'm worried that it may not be possible to meet my wife and children again.
Nang and the police officers we met shared photos of them on duty and their IDs, but the BBC is unable to independently verify their stories. As pro-democracy protests escalate across Myanmar, security forces in the country have been accused of killing people. Mobile phone footage shared with us by activists shows protesters dragged to the ground and beaten. Some of the footage is distressing. This 22-year-old police constable told me he witnessed brutality firsthand.
We went out with the military, threatening to arrest peaceful protesters. People were beaten up. I had sleepless nights. When I saw innocent people bleeding, my conscience wouldn't permit me to take part in such evil acts.
Authorities in Myanmar have asked India to return any defectors to uphold friendly relations. The officers we talked to say they can't go back. Grace, whose name we've changed, is one of 2 female officers we met who's defected. She said she saw the military use sticks and rubber bullets to round up protesters, and on one occasion saw tear gas being fired into a group which included young children.
They wanted us to arrest our friends. If we continue to remain in Myanmar, our lives would be in danger. We want peace to come quickly to the country and for the military to be defeated.
More than 100 people have now taken refuge here in the mountainous state of Mizoram since the coup. Local politicians say they'll provide temporary help to those arriving from Myanmar. But as people flee to this northeastern corner of India, the national government has yet to decide what happens to them next.
BBC's Rajini Bhattacharya, and we've been getting
world.
comments from new listeners as to the state. Awilo Wai says the killing of innocents in Myanmar is on the increase carried out by security forces. It's timely for the international community to take immediate action. That's Awilo Wai in Sierra Leone. You too can share your views here on Newsday.
This is the BBC World Service, where Nuala McGovern is hosting a special edition of OS Conversations.
We're bringing people together from all over the world to share their incredibly personal experience. To team up and provide determined leadership. Our aim is a new global biodiversity framework in Kunming next year. We want global rules that are clear, measurable, that allow us to hold each other to account. And above all, rules that will protect species and strengthen our resilience and our well-being. Let us make this our common mission. You can count on my commitment. Thank you.
I thank the President of the European Commission for the statement just made. I now invite the President of the French Republic to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
Ladies and gentlemen,
is expecting to receive 8 million shots by the end of next month, mainly from Pfizer-BioNTech and Moderna. Deputy Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Howard New says at the one-year mark of the pandemic, there's reason to be optimistic.
Canadians have good reason to be optimistic about this next phase of our vaccine rollout. The COVID-19 vaccines authorized for use in our country are safe and effective and are an important tool to help us lower the rates of infections, severe illness, and deaths.
Federal officials say the provinces have assured them that they are prepared to deal with a significant ramp-up of vaccines within the next few weeks. But just how optimistic are you feeling, really? Well, barely more than a quarter of Canadians tell an Ipsos poll for Global News they expect their lives to return to normal this year. In fact, 17% don't expect that to happen until 2023, 5% say 2024, and 7% say 2025 or later. Another 7% say things will never be what they think is normal again. Daryl Bricker of Ipsos says people are wary of becoming optimistic too quickly.
I think what Canadians are telling us in the survey is that it's been a year now. So anything that they thought was easy before, they've learned is not easy. They have learned that they maybe have to be prepared for unanticipated events that could happen, unanticipated consequences, things that are unexpected that could happen.
When asked to choose what they're most looking forward to from a list of 17 choices, dumping face masks and socializing with friends were the favorites by those who were asked. At the bottom of the list was going back to the workplace on a regular basis. From the Global News Desk, I'm Randy Kilburn.
Hinder the development of the rule of law and ultimately undermine sustainable development of humankind. This crisis must force us to transform in depth our models of production, of trade, and of consumption, because it's illusory to think that the development of our societies can be based on a model of production that destroys living creatures and it ultimately destroys our health and our prosperity. This is why.
So yes, to the monarchy. And by the way, let's start teaching it to our kids again. That's from Marcel in Toulon, Manitoba. Stephanie in Edmonton. Charles, I'd like more information before I can answer. The U.S. system scares me, but I've never been in favor of the monarchy. Bahamas is leaving the Commonwealth and redoing their constitution. I would like to know more. I have some research to do. Is it the Bahamas? Or Barbados? I'll have to check that out. I thought it was Barbados. Scott in Calgary says, leave the monarchy. Let me see what Jordan in Edmonton has to say. Jordan, thank you so much for calling in. You're up on Charles Adler tonight.
Hi, Charles.
Hello.
Thanks for the call. I guess I'm with you on the fact that I don't think it'll change the way our government operates.
But I have more questions about efficiency and the economics of the monarchy's role in our government. So, for me, you're right, whether roads are fixed or healthcare is provided. I mean, I also side with one of your texters. I'll take the Queen over Trump any day of the week. But how much does it cost us, and what are the efficiency costs? I mean, even just having a Governor General costs the government of Canada and the taxpayers in Canada money.
I think the average Canadian sees it as you're spending a few $1 million no matter who your figurehead is. So whether you're calling them a president or you're calling them a Governor General, you've got to get them a place to live. You know, you have to find some fancy shack like Rideau Hall. You've got to have a fancy car and a fancy driver and gardeners and all the things. How would you see it differently if it was not a Governor General, if a person was called a president instead?
Well, I don't necessarily think we need a president. If we just remove that layer of government. I mean, I've been, even since I was young, I thought, you know, why do we have the Queen involved? I mean, she's really, like you said, just a figurehead. So what's the point? I mean, the day that... You're saying then you would make the Prime Minister the head of state as well. They would just have two jobs. The Prime Minister, the elected official in Canada, is already effectively the head of state. I mean, it's like you said, a figurehead title. It's basically a waste of a position.
People are upset enough about the Prime Minister without telling them that he is effectively the head of state. But Jordan, you're absolutely right. I mean, you are. You've nailed the central point. We have a system whether we like it or not, the Prime Minister is effectively no different than the President of the United States. The Prime Minister has a lot of power. As a matter of fact, there have been presidents in the past who have said to our Prime Ministers, I wish I had your kind of power. Bill Clinton once told the Canadian Prime Minister that he wished that he had as much power as the Prime Minister, because Bill Clinton said, you know, he had to fight to get all kinds of bills through Congress. Well, Prime Ministers don't. Even when Prime Ministers have minorities, they don't have nearly as much of a battle to get their way with the House of Representatives and the Senate as the President has. So going with what you're saying, Jordan, and I think you're on the money, the Prime Minister is effectively the head of state. We just try to kind of keep quiet about that. But Jordan, thank you very much for the call from Edmonton. Going to Sally in Calgary. Sally, you're up on Charles Adler tonight. Welcome.
I am all for keeping the monarchy, and for two reasons. Because actually, one, countries that were previously under the Commonwealth and they left, broke away, those countries all fell. Like Iraq, Iran, there are a few countries that were British owned, and they were nothing after the British left, including the country I was born in, British Guyana. It was the hub and the best place to live until we broke away from Commonwealth, and it went down the drain.
Yeah, but why did that
went down the drain? People were fleeing the country. Now people are going back because it's no longer a third world country. It's like Canada.
So, Sally, give me some specifics so I can chew on something here. You say you're from Guyana, it used to be known as British Guyana.
No, it's like,
what changed when they broke away from the monarchy?
French Guyana.
What actually changed?
There were elections amongst the British, not the British, the local whites, the PNC, which was the blacks, and the East Indians. They had three different people running for president or prime minister. And the Portuguese guy, which they call local white, he was the best one to do it. We saw what he was doing, and we said, great, we're going to be okay. But he was booted out. And after that, they had riots upon riots upon riots, and everything was broken down. People's lives were being lost against the racial discrimination, the East Indians against the blacks, and so forth. My dad is British, and my mom is half British, half South American. And we were a mixed family. We're a mixed culture, colored people. Some of us are really white, some of us are tanned, nicely tanned. So we're a mixed-up family, and I love it. We all love it. And we've gone through racial tensions there, with people telling my dad, get us out of there because we don't belong there. Our own country that he worked in, slaved in, with the bauxite mining company run by the Americans and the British. And they booted him out. When we came home one day from school, we were told we have to leave the city that we were in. We had to leave, went to another city, lived and went to school there for a while. And my dad said, this is not going to work out. Next thing we know, they send something for us saying, we give you 2 weeks to leave the country with your father. Now there's 10 of us kids. 2 weeks we had to leave. They kicked us out of our home, took our house away. We had to leave every single thing in it. And it was all just a big mess. My dad said, good riddance. Good riddance.
Is that when you guys came to Canada?
We went to England first, because my dad's British from there. Spent some time there, then we moved over to Canada. This is 47 years ago. And so far from now, when I was back in the country in 2012, in Guyana, as it's known now, first time back, and I could not believe my eyes what I was seeing. The progress that was made there. Now they've got oil, big time. You've got Petro-Canada in there. You've got Esso in there. You've got Mobil, Exxon, everybody, the Americans and everybody's in there now. They have to turn away, close down the immigration because there are so many people wanting to migrate there now. Because it's so good. It's what they said in 2 years. That country will be the #1 country of oil production. And people want to go because we have a very good East Indian president. And he had a good head on his shoulders.
All right, so there were a lot of years of turbulence. Eventually,
these Indians are British too, eh?
Things got a lot better in Guyana to the point where when you visit now, all these years later, and then when I say now, about 7 years ago, it's a completely different country.
Thank you.
Sally, thank you very much. Appreciate the story. And thanks for the comments. Sally, feeling based on history, things generally don't work out very well when countries leave the monarchy. Vancouver is up next, and this is Colin on Charles Adler tonight. Colin, welcome.
Well, thank you. I enjoy your program, Charles.
Thank you.
And I wouldn't have a monarchy even though I played the bagpipes for Princess Elizabeth in about 1952 in Scotland.
What?
I've been in Canada for 62 years, and I would favor some form of Swiss-style democracy. Where the power of we don't have democracy in Canada. It's a great country. I mean, I'm glad I came here 61 years ago. But Pierre Trudeau wasn't a Democrat. He was twice the man his son is, but he wasn't a Democrat. I think we need Swiss-style democracy where the people in a referendum can either make laws or overturn laws.
Colin, you may not want to call it a democracy, but there is something good in this country. If you and I can be talking about this publicly, and I can be laughing about it, not worried that we're going to lose the broadcast license because Colin said what Colin wanted to say.
That's right. And you say what you want to say. And I think what we should have as government is what the people want, not what you want or what I want, but what the people want.
Well, Colin, before I move on,
how many of your sons in the army?
Have you got your bagpipes anywhere close to the telephone right now? Are you close to the pipes?
I've been once in Canada in 61 years. I've played myself on with Scotland the Brave, sang Donald for Fruiters, and played myself off with, what's that?
I'm not getting over
Yeah, no, but what do I have to do to get you to play the bagpipes for me now? Is that impossible? Would it be complicated?
I don't have them anymore. Only my God, 61 years. I was a bagpiper in the Boy Scout pipe band.
So, how old was the Queen? You say you played the bagpipes for the Queen back in Scotland. How old was she at the time?
Well, she was the same age as, what is she now, 95 or something?
She's in her 90s, yeah.
Oh, I'm 82, so I was.
So she was what, in her 20s? She was just a very, very young woman when you played the Vice.
As clean as gold.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, is that your career highlight, playing for the Queen in Scotland?
Well, my career highlight is telling the president to go jump up took a long walk off a short pier to pick it.
I bet this guy tell you this
Colin,
story 6 times.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming to Canada 61 years ago. You're a great gift to us all.
61 years
A great gift to democracy. This show is produced by Julie Doppel Ogunsola. And our technical producer is Brendan Kelly. Our executive producer is Lady Catherine Stewart. Shane Hewitt follows. He's up next hour. He'll give us a preview of what's coming up next hour on the shift in a moment. Thank you for joining us tonight on Charles Adler.
Thanks for taking the conversation to an in-depth level.
Spin the wheel.
When the whole world knows Canadians are capable.
Excitement for the bigger spin scratch ticket is great at home.
Done. With the arrest of some journalists, and they have been recently feeling the pressure more. So I think that could be the case, that they are now slightly changing the narrative.
What has the government in Asmara, the Eritrean government, said about the accusations that it's involved in committing atrocities in Tigray region?
Eritrean government has strongly denied and rejected the reports of atrocities being committed by Eritrean troops in Tigray. They have been silent in the beginning, and now with more and more reports of atrocities allegedly committed by Eritrean forces are coming. Now they have started to respond to it, but still they haven't released any detailed information on that. What we heard is tweets from the Minister of Information rejecting and denying all these atrocities.
I really wanted to get some of that detail that I was referring to. So I got my team to give the Eritrean embassy in London a call. I wanted to find out whether they had any thoughts on the various allegations made against Eritrean troops, including these accusations of sexual violence. They sent us this statement and a couple of video clips. They said,
"The allegations you talk about are fabricated and utterly false accusations, essentially concocted to cover up the high crimes of war and sedition that the TPLF launched against the federal government of Ethiopia in the first week of November last year."
A statement from the authorities in Ethiopia, and we also heard from Desta Gebramedian from our BBC Tigrinya service speaking to Alan Kasuja.
Newsday on the BBC World Service. Time for the sports with James Craig.
Thank you very much, James. 2 massive ties last night.
$300. Save money on fashionable eyewear with Hakeem Optical's Hello to Spring sale.
Your eyes can have it all at Hakeem Optical.
The new Global TV app now has the best news offering, including national and local news and 24-hour live streams. I'm Donna Friesen. Thanks for joining us. We were going to call it that. Now you can watch global news with your morning coffee or lunch or really any meal and stay informed about your PM or MP or MVP on demand or with 24/7 live streams for free on the Global TV app. But that was taken. What app's got it all? The new Global.
Jota and Salah combined for Salah to score his 25th goal of the season. 4 minutes later, substitute Origi set up Mane to make it 2-0, and after that, Liverpool.
I believe that the global biodiversity framework, which we are currently working on, will constitute a roadmap which includes effective and action-orientated targets in the process leading up to 2050. We should never consider the conservation of biodiversity and its contribution to the economy as short-term goals. By raising awareness in all economic sectors, we should encourage the private sector to make investments in this field. and transform the problems we are faced with into opportunities. Turkey, which will host in 2020.
Now in Bond, Scarborough, and Mississauga. If you have pain, see Dr. Lou Nelly. Go to Pinpoint Health Clinic.
Pinpoint Health is there for all your pain care needs, including chiropractic, physio, and massage therapy. Call Dr. Lou now at Pinpoint Health, 1-855-55-DRLOU, or visit pinpointhealth.ca.
Don't miss the Pinpoint Health Show with Dr. Lou every Saturday morning at 11. And for answers anytime, call 1-855-55-DR-LOU or pinpointhealth.ca.
In 200 meters, go left onto, James Street. Yeah, no, wait, left, I think. Recalculating. Hey, wow, I love you, man. Just wanted you to know that. Okay. Recalculating. Go left onto King Street. Wait, sorry, that's a stop sign. Recalculating.
You wouldn't trust AI.
It's not AI, it's GPS.
At bbc.com/sport.
Thank you very much, James Craig.
A trade dispute has broken out in East Africa over maize. In recent days, Kenya has banned imports of the produce from both Uganda and Tanzania, despite protests from each about the blow this will deal to their economies. Well, to find out why Kenya is going against the grain, forgive the pun, we're joined now by Milton Ayeko, who's director of the Tegemeo Institute of Agricultural Policy and Development at the Egerton University in Kenya. Greetings to you this morning. So tell us what's been going on, please.
Thank you very much. As you know, Kenya is a maize deficit country. We consume more than we produce, and most of the deficit is made by imports from within the region, mainly Uganda and Tanzania, and also, sometimes Zambia and South Africa. And so, recently, the government, through its regulator, the Agriculture and Food Authority, issued an import restriction on the maize that is coming from Uganda and Tanzania, citing high incidences and high levels of aflatoxin found in maize containment from these two countries. This was unexpected, and it has created some distractions and distortions in the market within the region. So,
if I can ask, that was they did the same thing back in 2018, didn't they? And given that many countries, all around the world are going through a state of economic turmoil right now because of the pandemic, how are countries such as Uganda and Tanzania reacting because of the implications this will have on them?
So, one, because this was unexpected, we've seen the legislature in Uganda and in Tanzania, protesting. As you know, that Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania belong to the East African Common Market. And so the use of non-tariff barriers such as restrictions imposed by this measure is not going very well. We see, the prices in Kenya are likely to, go high, but also in the region we see the prices are likely to go down. We are also expecting, for example, that there will be reduced milling capacity, high operating costs, and also depressed, also increase in informal market trade because our borders are porous. So
if I can ask you very briefly, because this is, as you say, because of aflatoxins, even though it goes against the whole sentiment of the EAC, Burundi has now, I understand, done the same thing. Can you but not because of aflatoxins, I understand. Can you briefly tell us what aflatoxins actually are? Describe them a bit more.
So aflatoxins are mycotoxins that occur as a result of maize not dried properly, and when they are exposed to heat, then the maize will rot, And this is a safety issue, and it affects.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milton Ayeko. Sorry for having to end here, but thank you very much for joining us.
Did you just break it down to him giving you a technical? We could have all found that out ourselves. What else is
Her first book was a New York Times bestseller today. She's the release of a new type.
I truly believe that. I don't think it's working for the most part. I don't think we're moving forward as a country.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, government, not parties. You're basically talking about the unity issue. Like we're not becoming more united. Yeah. We're becoming more disunited. That's right. Yeah. You know why? Yeah. Politics. Yeah. Agenda. Seriously, the politics of division works for certain parties at certain times. West versus East, English versus French. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. I mean, there are different ways of saying it, but for those people who are, the best political chess players win. And unity is something that they talk about, but it's something that they don't really work very hard for. They like the idea of certain regions being against other regions, especially if they are in control of the regions where most of the people are living. Well, and where the votes are. Our map is not great. I mean, the unity piece, absolutely. I mean, we just saw it in the States. Joe Biden ran on unity, and the very first thing on his very first day he did was drove some massive stakes into unity. So we see it here in Canada too. And I think that when we look at that perspective of politics and agenda and greed, is that they know how to get it. But the reality is, and I've said this before, is that it does fall into our listening. We as constituents, as Canadians, we give the politicians space to politic. We buy into the spin, we buy into the rhetoric, we buy into it. So just as much as they politic, we also give them the space by listening and reacting. So that does fall on us. Well, I think that it's one of those jobs that we don't want to do. So we kind of outsource it to them, and then we somehow maintain the right to complain about how they do it. Yes. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I don't want to know. You take care of that, but unless I don't like it, then I'll complain. Yeah. Nobody's lost any points behind a microphone, sometimes stating the obvious, and that's kind of the way it works. We think politics is messy. Many of us think it's just bloody boring. We want someone else to do it for us, and we still want to whine about how they do the job. In 30 seconds or less, what's coming up next hour on the shift? Well, we are speaking to a former ambassador from Barbados to London, who Barbados is leaving the Commonwealth. And, well, they're not leaving the Commonwealth, but they are removing the Queen as a head of state. And so he's going to share us why it works for Barbados. And there's a crazy amount of similarities and overlap between Barbados and Canada and the way we do things. So that is coming up, and his name is Guy Hewitt. So he's awesome. Oh, my God. Last night, on the one hand, you were complaining there weren't enough Hewitts around. I pointed out how many there are. And here you are making my case again by putting on a Hewitt. I'm seeking out the Hewitt. But does he play hockey? I'm bringing them together. Does he play hockey, or is he connected to hockey broadcasting? No, that's something. No. Okay, that's a little homework for you. You got to get that done, Shane. Okay.
There's, a bomb goes off before a football competition. There is violence. There is this conflict between the Anglophone separatists and the government. Is their struggle one that you understand?
Yes. I mean, I am Anglophone Cameroonian. I grew up in that world and it is such a shame because the only thing that divides Anglophone Cameroon from Anglophone Cameroon is that we had different colonial masters, right? One side was colonized by the French, other side was colonized by the British, and that is what is dividing us now. I understood that struggle of living in a country where, just by virtue of having had a different colonial masters, you don't get to have certain privileges. And Cameroon is probably the rare country in the world where speaking English is a disadvantage.
I read that when you were writing this book, you cried a lot.
Yes, well, I cried a lot and I also laughed a lot. It was a very cathartic experience. It was a difficult book because I am concerned about the extent to which the environment is being degraded for the sake of profit. I am concerned about communities that, in a way, not that they are voiceless, because the great writer Arundhati says there's no such thing as voiceless. They're just, intentionally ignored. Communities that are being ignored, and it is happening all over the world. The environmental angle was inspired by by what is happening in the Niger Delta, but also what is happening in Ecuador, what is happening in the Gulf of Mexico, after the BP oil spill. I bring a lot of questions to my writing. I struggle to understand the world. And so when I write and I go to the full range of emotion, it's because I'm trying to come to some sort of peace with what is, and knowing that the least I can do is to tell a story honestly.
That's Mbue. Her novel is called How Beautiful We Were. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that interview. +44 7786 20 50 85. This is Newsday.
This is the BBC World Service, with a BBC World Service and American Public Media co-production with iHeartMedia.
I'm Dessa, tasked with finding out why do you do what you do.
There's a whole bunch of taboos around illness and speaking about it.
This week, pain. Two people can experience identical injuries completely differently. So how does the way we think affect the way we hurt?
You need to tell me to think positive or some shit.
In with the news. Tell it.
Gone forever.
That's right.
All this junk is going to disappear.
Lift up your pointing finger.
I've got it lifted and I'm ready to point.
We've got a truck team headed your way.
I am so looking forward to this.
Nothing feels better than a fresh, clean start.
When you want junk to disappear, all you have to do is point.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK
or visit us at 1-800-GOT-JUNK.com.
This is Global News. I'm Randy Kilburn. The soldier in charge of rolling out COVID-19 vaccines to the provinces and the territories, Major Danny Fortin, says Canada is expecting to receive 8 million shots by the end of next month, mainly from Pfizer and Moderna. Now, he says he's expecting Canada to get those. Deputy Chief Public Health Officer Dr. Howard New says at the one-year mark of the pandemic, there is reason to be optimistic.
Canadians have good reason to be optimistic about this next phase of our vaccine rollout. The COVID-19 vaccines authorized for use in our country are safe and effective and are an important tool to help us lower the rates of infections, severe illness, and deaths.
Federal officials say the provinces have assured them
world's most economically vulnerable people. Speaking on the first anniversary of the World Health Organization's announcement of a pandemic, Filippo Grandi said inequality in vaccination rollouts was blatant and short-sighted.
Those vaccines have to exist and to be rolled out to include if you really the enormous inequality of the international system has appeared very clearly. The 10th of March is the first day that Uganda, a nation of more than 40 million people, is receiving its first vaccine, when in rich countries this has been months. So this inequality is blatant. This needs to be corrected.
President Biden's massive coronavirus relief package has cleared its final hurdle in the US Congress. The economic aid plan, worth almost $2 trillion, was approved by the House of Representatives without a single Republican vote in favor. In the week Syria will mark a decade of war, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said its people have suffered unimaginable violence and repression.
10 years ago, the violent suppression of peaceful popular demonstrations in Syria set the country on the path to a horrific war. After a decade of conflict, in the middle of a global pandemic, and faced with a steady stream of new crises, Syria has fallen off the front page. And yet, the situation remains a living nightmare.
35 aid organizations have warned that Syria faces irreversible damage if a political solution is not found to the conflict. The Mexican lower house of Congress has voted to decriminalize the recreational use of marijuana. The reform is aimed partly at curbing drug-related violence that claims thousands of lives each year.
That's not over weed, eh?
The use of marijuana in Mexico for recreational and medicinal purposes is almost law. The bill, which now passes the Senate for a final vote would, in theory, create the world's biggest legal market for cannabis, potentially dealing a major blow to the country's powerful drug cartels, as thousands of small-scale farmers could be brought into the formal economy. Under the bill, holders of a license would be permitted to carry up to 28 grams of cannabis and grow up to 8 plants at home.
At least 27 people have been killed in a bus crash on the island of Java in Indonesia. Local police say about 40 other passengers were injured when the bus carrying pilgrims and high school pupils to the city of Subang in western Java left the road and plunged into a deep ravine. This is the latest world news from the BBC. Australians will be able to buy half-price flights to a dozen domestic holiday spots from next month under a government plan to promote domestic tourism. The subsidy scheme, worth almost $1 billion, aims to revive the industry, which has been hard hit by the COVID pandemic. The package was announced by the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, at a news conference in Sydney.
800,000 tickets to ride for Australians to go out and ensure that they can experience this amazing country. That's what this is about. To keep people in their jobs, we've got to put planes in the air and we've got to put tourists on the ground. The Australian tourism industry needs more tourists.
Israeli media say that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will later today visit the United Arab Emirates, one of the Arab countries that signed a normalization agreement with Israel last year. With Israelis due to go to the polls for a fourth general election later this month, Mr. Netanyahu's visit appears designed to give him a political boost before the vote. People in Japan are marking the 10th anniversary of the devastating earthquake and tsunami that struck the country's northeast coast, killing thousands and triggering a meltdown at the Fukushima nuclear plant. Rupert Winkle-Hayes reports from Tokyo.
In Japan, it is known as the Triple Disaster. All along the northeast coast today, ceremonies are being held to remember the 18,500 people who died away by the giant tsunami. In the last 10 years, a truly epic amount of work and money has gone into rebuilding the physical infrastructure. New towns, roads, railways, and even a 400-kilometer-long tsunami wall. But putting the human communities back together is proving much harder. In the contamination zone around the Fukushima nuclear plant, 2 whole towns remain off limits.
You need things to break the wave up, not a wall. That's not going to work. It's going to build the pressure up worse.
Thank you very much for that news. Hello and welcome to Newsday on the BBC World Service with James Cobman and me, Bola Mosuru. It's a year since the COVID outbreak was declared a pandemic, and it's 10 years since an earthquake and tsunami hit Japan. We have more on both coming up. And why has Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu embarked on a tour in the Middle East?
Sometimes it's a none of the above, or some of the above, or please explain below type answers. And then Charles, my answer to him was that, well, maybe some Queenie things, not all the Queenie things. And then I responded with, well, we were going to have some paperwork to do. So it's not that easy. And we have a guest coming up on the shift who he's all over this topic. And I'm really glad we met him. His name is Guy Hewitt.
You're not smiling. And
I'm very excited for you to meet him. Guy Hewitt is from, I'm not sure if I have the directions right. I think he's born in London, Barbadian family, moved back to Barbados, and then ended up becoming an ambassador of like religious and social things, and then was back in London, and then ended up landing in Florida for work. So he is very familiar with all these cool things. He's very familiar with Barbados because Barbados is leaving the Queen as a head of state. They're not really leaving the Commonwealth. He'll explain, but they are dropping the Queen as the head of state. And then he's also familiar, of course, with all things Commonwealth. And he's going to let us know, what are they doing in Barbados? And what are the commonalities between Barbados and Canada? And should we consider this? Now, we did speak to a guy earlier in the day, and so I've recorded that conversation already, and I can tell you this. He shares some insights that I would never have thought of, and he shares a perspective about the identity of Barbados
that I also, when you translate to thinking about Canada's identity, it's curious. I think you bring such things that we need to pay attention to. So I look forward to sharing that part of the conversation with you coming up here on The Shift. Other pieces of The Shift that we can look forward to, we have Blaine Kylo, as we always do on the Wednesday. So we're going to talk to Blaine. He's got some great VR stories and more. Men Wearing Makeup, a segment from Chappa Pappy Pappy for CKNW in Vancouver, which, by the way, we're fighting, me and Eric.
What?
I don't know if you heard. Did you see his tweet today? Like a dagger through my heart?
No. I knew you were going to talk about this. Just let him bend, man. Just let him bend.
He said pineapples suck.
They do.
Oh, he said pineapples should go straight to the garbage can. My coworker says this in public right when he knows I'm going to see it.
The timing of the tweet was impeccable. I will say that. It was front and center on my feed. But it was the machine. The context of the tweet was like this German like a pineapple cutting machine, which was very satisfying to watch. It was really cool. But nobody really cares about that because these two are in an all-out war over if pineapples are cool or not. Yeah.
And you know what the tweet was? It wasn't about a machine, Ryan. It was about, this is the show you work on. Faith. Loyalty. These are words that matter.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm your coworker too, and I hate pineapples. Did you know that?
Me too.
Treachery. Treachery's afoot on The Shift tonight.
I won't judge you for it, though.
You know what the best part? Do you hate pineapples too, Ryan?
I would never. I will never.
Say it now. Say it. Might as well get it out there. No BS.
I do not enjoy eating pineapples. However, I love pineapple juice.
Okay,
that's my compromise.
Weird.
You are Switzerland.
That is weird. All right, well, you guys are going to enjoy hosting the show tonight, clearly. Good luck with that.
We have curfew, but it doesn't feel as if, cases are running out of control again. And I think what people would appreciate now is possibly, despite, the world that's going pretty best, if we do have another complete lockdown. But I think the majority of people would decide. Angela, thank you very much for joining us. Angela Frieda of the Guardian newspaper in Rome.
On then to that other rather tragic anniversary, exactly 10 years to the day since Japan was hit by a giant earthquake that triggered a massive tsunami, which crashed into the country's northeast coast. Dozens of towns and villages were engulfed by the immense wave, and it triggered the meltdown of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant. 10 years on, Japan correspondent Rupert Wingfield Hayes has been back to meet people whose lives would change forever on that day.
As the 10th anniversary approaches, a group of Buddhist monks is walking the coast road, chanting prayers for the more than 18,000 people swept away that day. A few hundred meters away, Kiyokazu Sasaki stands on a bare, windswept piece of land. Before the tsunami, this was the fishing port of Yuriage. When the wave swept in, it took 1 in 10 of Yuriage's residents, including Sasaki-san's whole family. As he tells me his story, he clutches his most precious possession, his 14-year-old daughter's school uniform.
In the beginning, I was drinking heavily. I really don't remember much of the first 3 years after the quake. After 4 years, I started to tell my story. I had a fight with my wife that morning before the quake struck. So now I tell people, what would you do if tomorrow never comes? I tell them to live every single day as if you don't have tomorrow.
The giant wave that destroyed Yuriage unleashed a chain of events that continues to haunt Japan today. 100 kilometers south, the wave knocked out all power to the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. Over the preceding days, a series of explosions ripped through the reactor buildings, releasing a radioactive cloud that then spread across the surrounding towns and villages. 10 years on, you still need special permission to get into the exclusion zone around the plant. This exclusion zone is much smaller than it was 10 years ago, but it is still significant. Thousands of people are unable to come back here still. 2 towns remain completely deserted. There have been vast amounts of money spent on the cleanup of the land around here and of the plant itself. Tens of billions of dollars have been spent. The hope is that one day everybody will be able to return to their homes. Less than 2 kilometers from the plant, the public address system broadcasts safety announcement, to whom is not clear. Standing beside me, Fumihiro Yoshioka looks out at what used to be his rice fields. Now his land is a giant waste dump for contaminated topsoil removed during the cleanup. Yoshioka-san thinks a lot of this effort to clean the land is a waste of time.
The
reality is we don't have any younger farmers to resume farming here. Also, the products from here are tested, but no matter what the result, people still say it's not safe.
In the nearby village of Obori, Yoshihiro Shiga has to fight his way through the undergrowth to get to his old front door. Well, this is what it sounds like walking through the front yard of Shiga-san's house now. It is completely overgrown. The last time I was here 5 years ago, it was already a mess, but it is much, much worse. There are now big holes in the roof. Water has been pouring through. The inside of the house is moldy and rotten. The floors have gone. This house will never be lived in again.
They should just fence off the area and make it a no-go zone.
Sitting in his old pottery workshop, broken pots strewn on the floor around him, Shiga-san is even more skeptical about the decontamination project.
This place may look like a mess, but I want it to be left alone. This is my home. I have so many memories here. I don't want others to come in and trample on everything.
The Japanese government talks a lot about the recovery of the Northeast. They've even dubbed this year's Tokyo Olympics the Recovery Games. But for those directly touched by the disaster 10 years ago, life changed forever. There is no way of going back to the time before the tsunami.
Rupert Wingfield Hayes reporting there.
Doctors needing support and feeling not have full-blown PTSD, but are certainly having some of the symptoms. So not sleeping as well, feeling chronically anxious, having difficulty turning their fight or flight system off.
If anyone understands trauma, it's Kelly Cray. What the public sees through the camera is not necessarily what goes on here. It is tiring, frustrating, and that takes a toll. Karen Lieberman, Global News, Toronto.
I can only imagine. The pandemic gave us a new normal that quickly became very old normal for most people. Mike Drolet looks at how Canadians are coping and how one Yukon man even quit his job just to cheer up people full time. That's a good idea.
Remember the shock of that first lockdown? We went from bustling cities to eerie quiet overnight. But we adapted, even embraced the isolation by spending more time doing family activities. We took up hobbies like baking, so many goodies, big and small. And the fails, they were even better. But as the weather warmed up, the luster of the virtual began to fade.
I just can't be on another Zoom call. I almost refuse. I'm like, I'm over it. I'm over Zoom.
And that was the beginning of the slump.
I'm not a cat.
By winter, it was on full display as participation in virtual or distance events bottomed out.
Definitely, totally not doing Zoom happy hours anymore or drive-by birthdays.
You can't sit in one bed in a bachelor watching TV all the time. You have a cigarette, then you end up smoking all cigarettes, and it's not good for you.
But the slump was more than frustration and annoyance. Antidepressant prescriptions went up 20% according to some insurance companies, and even the most upbeat people admitted to feeling down.
Yeah, I have my moments of reflections too during my daytime.
And when that happens, Pradeep Pander dances. Over the last year, millions of people have watched Pradeep do traditional Bhangra dances in the wilderness near his Yukon cottage. And he's become so popular, he no longer does IT work for the government.
Like so many letters from all over the world. Right now, these are the just letters I received yesterday.
If he ever has a day when he feels a little down, he recalls messages like the one he received from a girl immobilized in a hospital bed.
And I watch your videos and I dance, I do a little dancing in the bed. It was such a powerful message. I watched the video. I could, oh my God, it's really huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And hopefully all of this, along with the slump, is over soon. Mike Trelake, Global News, Toronto.
Wait. He's making people happy. What do you mean, hopefully it's all over soon?
He's super awesome. We should bring it back. He literally is just exudes joy and love, that guy. Okay. Where are we?
Where's your...
Just going through my stack of seeking evidence to support my pineapple thing that we're about to argue about. Just saying. Getting ready. Thank you for your text messages supporting us here. As with everything else, COVID, the pandemic is changing income tax season, especially if you've been claiming some of the assistance. And Drua has some advice from the experts on how to get the most out of your return.
For Canadians who received the Canada Emergency Response Benefit or CERB during the pandemic, you'll have to report it when filing your taxes.
Wow. There was no tax withheld at the source. So that means whatever you receive,
why would that? That doesn't make sense.
For all income. And so there was additional income tax you need to pay.
Other available benefits like the Canada Recovery Benefit, the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit, and the Canada Recovery Caregiving Benefit, as well as the Canada Emergency Student Benefit, have had 10% tax withheld at source, but most people will still owe some taxes.
If you were receiving $1,000, you only receive $900. So there was $100 of tax deducted at source. So that will definitely help.
Tax experts say the amount of tax you pay on the taxable benefits depends on a variety of factors.
This income will be added to your overall income, right? So no matter how much your income was, then your total tax liability depends on your total net income, taxable income, and depends on which tax bracket you are in.
Some of the one-time federal emergency benefits which won't be taxed include the one-time Canada Child Benefit, the one-time payment because of a disability, the one-time payment of the GST, and the one-time payment of the old age security pension.
Those one-time payments, those were not taxable, so you don't have to report it on your tax return at all.
It is taxed.
If you work from home during the pandemic, there are two methods to claim home office expenses: the new temporary flat rate method and the detailed method. Under the temporary flat rate method, you can claim $2 per day for each day worked at home up to a maximum of $400.
Wow.
And then there is the detailed method.
If you think this is more beneficial, you can claim this detailed method and claim all the expenses you actually incurred.
Canadians using this method will need a special form. For more details on how to claim these expenses and other tax-related questions, visit the Canada Revenue Agency website.
Yeah, go ahead. Check it out. Find out what's happening with your taxes. All right. Getting ready for this. 877-399-9898. I found out tonight some disturbing news about who I thought were trusted friends, that we had open, honest relationships. Turns out I was wrong, and that's hard. That hurts.
I guess we should have really talked about this before we, started doing this whole show thing.
Yeah.
For months.
Yeah.
Years.
For me and you.
How has this not come up yet?
All because you lied to me. That's why.
I just think I avoided telling you I didn't like it. Like when you told me your passionate story about how you grow pineapples, I was just like, good for him. I'm not going to tell him that I think pineapples are not great, but.
All right. Yeah. Well, here's the response from Shift Heads. Hey, Shift Show, pineapple and grapefruit can interfere with some medications, so I don't have either, but I do miss fresh grapefruit and Hawaiian pizza from London. Thank you, London. Pineapple does the body good.
There's a good
Hashtag
pill
Team
popping
Pineapple.
obedient
Thanks, Laura.
person. The doctor said
Just
something
saying.
about it, so therefore.
HNP Pizza is the bomb. Thanks, Rob, for the so good at the end. I know what you're doing.
Disgusting. He's not going to put this person on.
Citizens of Israel polls show are extremely enthusiastic about the opportunities that this peace can bring for them.
Very interesting indeed. Lahab Harkov, senior contributing editor and diplomatic correspondent of the Jerusalem Post there.
We head to South Africa now, where dropping seawater temperatures have seen masses of fish washed up ashore, dead. Fishermen in the affected area have reported uncommon species washing up ashore, and it's been particularly along the Eastern Cape beaches, and it's rare species that are being seen. So what's going on? Well, joining us now is Kevin Cole, who's a scientist with the East London Museum. Morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us, Kevin. So where specifically in the Eastern Cape is this happening?
Yes, good morning to you and the listeners. Well, we've had reports from the Wild Coast area all the way down to East London and then further south. So it's a wide stretch of the east coast of South Africa where these mortalities have been reported.
And how much has the temperature actually dropped by?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. At this time of the year, we normally have a thermocline over the continental shelf off the east coast. So we have warmer water on the surface and colder water at the bottom. And what's actually happened is that with the northeasterly winds that can blow at this time of the year, it's driven up a lot of the cold water, an upwelling event. And so surface temperatures have dropped from approximately 26 degrees right the way down to 14 and in some instances 12 degrees. So yeah, rapid and very steep decline in temperature over this period.
And I believe that it's rare species that you're then seeing washing up. But not only are you seeing them, they're dying, they're dead when they reach the shore.
Yes, so we've had unusual species like manta rays, and I had to work on documented two oceanic giant mantas that came ashore. Sadly, they were alive, obviously shocked by the sudden quick change in temperature, and measurements were taken on them. One of the mantas was 5.17 meters, the other was 4.53. Other unusual species that have come ashore, we recorded a species of fish called a three-toothed puffer. We've had quite a lot of squid. We've also had lobsters and crayfish. So in terms of the numbers of fish, we won't be able to quantify that. But what we are able to determine at this stage with reports coming from the public are the different species. So we're up to about 60 different species of fish at the moment in our records, which is quite significant. And obviously related to this is there's been an improved observer effort. A lot more people have got cell phones, so they're able to take photographs. Although this event has occurred previously, but not to the extent in the last decade or so, of such a steep temperature change, the observer record will help us perhaps plan better for scientifically documenting an event of this kind in the future.
I mean, there's nothing, I guess, Kevin, that you can do about the drop in temperatures, given that this is an environmental change. But last year, I know you had a problem with an oil spill in the same kind of area. Are you worried overall about, the fish population in your seas and what's happening to them as a result of these changes?
Well, yeah, this event is a natural phenomena, and folk have asked what can we do about it. There's not much that we can do. It's just part of the ocean system here. We have a warmer Gullis current coming down. Over summer months, we have the south westerly winds that blow water offshore, allowing the gullies to come closer inshore. And then if we have these persistent northeasterlies, it brings up the colder water. The concerns are we're in a very biodiversity-rich area in terms of our coastline. Yeah, but with natural phenomena, not much we can do. But we are concerned about maybe redirecting sea traffic or better control of that. We have a lot of whale migratory species coming through in the winter months here. So there are some challenges, definitely.
That in itself would be another question, how exactly you'd redirect those species, but that would be for another day. Kevin Cole from the East London Museum in the Eastern Cape, thank you very much for joining us this morning here on Newsday.
This is the BBC World Service, looking at how COVID is changing the working landscape for women in the United States.
We had no idea if we'd survive. I'm Neda Tawfiq, and I'll be discovering how
Inventory's low. Some sellers may even think that an agent can sell their home. That may be true in this market, but what's also true is you can lose tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands in the sale of your property if it's not handled correctly. On the first day you list it, and you'd be confident you got the most. How many people are even aware of the listing? You need to call Frank Leo and Associates of RE/MAX when your $30 guaranteed home selling system will not only get you top dollar for your home, it will also give you the peace of mind knowing that you did get that top dollar. Frank Leo and Associates at 416-917-5466. That's 416-917-LION, or go online to getleo.com. That's getleo.com and start packing.
There are 25 Swedish words for snow. A Volvo is made to withstand all of them. Rigorously tested in Sweden's Arctic Circle, every Volvo is designed to handle even the harshest Canadian winters. So no matter the weather, Volvo's advanced safety technology is designed to help make sure you and your loved ones arrive safe and sound. Lease or finance a Volvo XC40 T5 from 2.9% and save $1,000. Conditions apply. Visit your local GTA Volvo retailer or volvocars.ca.
If you have knee pain and you're worried about how long it takes to see a specialist, here's good news from Dr. Lou Nally. Working with a knee clinic, Dr. Lou offers immediate referral to the specialist or orthopedic surgeon, and it's covered by OHIP. Call Dr. Lou now at Pinpoint Health, 1-855-55-DRLOU, or visit pinpointhealth.ca.
Don't miss the Pinpoint Health Show with Dr. Lou every Saturday morning at 11. Call 1-855-55-DR-LOU or pinpointhealth.ca.
As a member of the Canadian Broadcast Standards Council, Global News Radio 640 Toronto is committed to the highest standards of broadcasting. We believe in being accountable to you, the listener, in our information and entertainment programming. If you have a comment to make about our programming, write to us. We'll respond to your letter and send you information on the council and its codes. A message from the Canadian Association of Broadcasters and Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
We're here for the night owls and the really early risers. It's The Shift with Shane Hewitt.
The executive producer of the show is Catherine Stewart, K-Stu. Charles Adler calls her Lady Catherine. We've received a letter from Trucker Dan to Lady Catherine. Dear Lady Catherine, it's with a heavy heart that I inform you, two of the shift crew simply don't like pineapple. I'm not sure if it's the best action, is psychotherapy, or simply euthanasia. I will leave that decision in your capable hands. Sincerely, Trucker Dan.
Wow. Matt, what have we gotten ourselves into here? There is a witch hunt.
Yeah, I definitely didn't bargain for this tonight, that's for sure.
No.
Yeah. Good evening, Shane. I love pineapple.
that President John Magufuli of Kenya in capital Nairobi after testing positive for COVID-19. President Magufuli, who's repeatedly dismissed the impact of the virus on Tanzania, has not been seen in public for almost 2 weeks. Well, for more, I spoke earlier to our correspondent, Leila Netu, who's in Nairobi.
We know very little, in fact, but what Tundu Lissu, the opposition party politician currently in exile in Belgium, is claiming is that he has heard from well-placed sources and believes